Welcome to the STAR-K pre-Pesach kitchen tutorial, which will include cleaning and kashering. We hope that this tutorial will help you prepare your kitchen for Pesach in a very effective and easy manner. Chametz is not grime, chametz is not dirt, chametz is not dust. Chametz is only particles which are about a kazayas or bigger, or any visible items that are part of the chameshes minei dagan, 5 types of grains. So as long as your kitchen looks clean, pretty much it is clean, and therefore you don't have to go chasing after all the dust particles and pieces of dirt and grime that are there. You might want to clean them off anyway, but that is not because they're necessarily chametzdik. Once your kitchen is free of any obvious chametz, it is ready to be turned over for Pesach. Countertops, generally speaking, just have to be wiped down and covered. That's usually the easiest way to prepare countertops for Pesach. These countertops are made out of granite. Technically speaking, a solid stone like granite is technically kasherable. However, it is something that requires some expertise to do without causing a lot of dangerous hot water spilling all over the place, or unless you have some very expensive kashering equipment. And therefore, the easiest way to prepare your countertops is simply to wipe them down and cover them with any kind of impermeable covering, whether it's hard plastic, contact paper, or any other type of hard or soft covering would suffice to cover them for Pesach. You do not have to take a toothpick and go scraping into the back over here. All you need to do is wipe them down, and once they're clean, they are completely clean. And then they get ready to be covered. As far as the backsplash goes, as long as you're not putting your pots or food against the backsplash, you do not need to cover it. Ovens and stovetops, sometimes a source of stress for people. Kashering ovens is a process known as libun kal, which means you get it hot enough that a piece of paper will be singed from the outside of the oven. We know that temperature to be at approximately 500 or 550 degrees. Once an oven reaches the temperature of 500 or 550 degrees for at least 40 minutes, that effectively will kasher the oven. Many home ovens have self-clean. The self-clean feature is something that effectively will kasher the oven. Self-cleaning ovens should be wiped down to remove any big pockets of residue, which could potentially create a fire hazard. The area outside of the oven over here, as well as around the sides and in the gasket, should also be wiped down to remove any residue. The glass as well should be scrubbed to remove as much residue as possible. If you're having a hard time removing the residue after 1 or 2 applications of Easy Off or other caustic chemical, whatever is left over, you do not have to worry about. If your oven is not self-clean, then it should be cleaned as well as possible and then set onto the highest setting, 500 or 550, for at least 40 minutes. Note that both of these kashering processes will also kasher the grates inside the oven. Some people are concerned that the grates will become very hard to move once they are run through on a self-clean cycle, and some oven manufacturers also recommend that you not leave the grates inside the oven when you do the self-clean cycle. If that is the case, then remove the grates, run the oven on self-clean, put the grates back in the oven, and then turn the oven on to 550, 500 for at least 40 minutes, and that will kasher the grates. Please note also that if you do have a self-clean oven, you should ensure that the oven cleanser that you use is approved for use in self-cleaning ovens, because self-cleaning ovens have a coating on the walls that can be damaged if you use a regular oven cleanser. Stove grates should be wiped down and then placed in the oven on 500 or 550 for 40 minutes. It is not recommended to put the stove grates in the oven if you self-clean the oven, because that will cause some of the coating on the stove grates to be removed. The burners themselves do not need any kashering. They will kasher themselves every time you turn them on. The area in between the burners should just be covered with heavy-duty foil, and that is all you need to do. If you have an electric stove, the burner itself kashers itself every time you turn it on. The area in between the burners should just simply be covered with foil, and that is all you need to do. If you have a glass top stove, it cannot be kashered effectively, and instead you should put some foil layered over or some kind of metal disc underneath the pot. Alternatively, there's also a product available online called a glass top stove mat, which is a mat that you can place on top of your stove top, and you can cook on top of the mat. That is what it's meant for. Once you put that mat in place, you can use your glass top stove as usual. Boilers and warming drawers cannot be kashered effectively, and therefore they should just not be used for Pesach. Hagolah is the method used to kasher all types of metal items, whether it's cutlery, kiddush cups, and similar like items. In order to do Hagolah effectively, the items first have to be cleaned very well first. And an item like a fork, make sure the area in between over here is specifically cleaned out very, very well. The items also should be unused for anything hot for 24 hours prior to kashering. The pot used for Hagolah should preferably be a Pesach-dik pot. Alternatively, if one is not available, you may use a chametz-dik pot that is clean, which has not been used for anything within the last 24 hours. Once the pot is at a rolling boil, you're going to place the items in the pot very carefully to ensure that it doesn't splash on you. You should also be wearing some sort of protective gear to make sure that you don't get injured in this process. Leave the items in the pot for a few seconds, remove them, and immediately rinse them in cold water. The rule by Kashering is that whatever way the sink became or item became non-Pesach stick, became chametz stick, that is how it has to be kasher. Kabbalah kach polto. And therefore a sink, the way it became chametz stick was presumably through pouring liquid, which is like macaroni water, for example. Therefore the method of kashering it is known as iriroskin, pouring boiling water over this entire part of the sink. Now the first step is the sink has to be cleaned and not used for 24 hours prior to kashering the sink. Then the method we're going to use is to pour boiling water over the sink. The most practical and safe way to do that is using a kettle, electric kettle or a tea kettle, commonly found in many houses, and pouring that over all the surfaces of the sink. The challenge many people have is ensuring that the stream hits every single part of the sink directly from the pot without any breaks. So we're going to demonstrate a method that is a very practical and easy to use method, which will ensure that you get every part of the sink directly from the pot. If you notice, when you pour water out of a kettle or out of a pot, the water goes in an arc. If you take that arc and move it over a vertical surface, you will effectively get and touch every single part of the vertical surface, like this. You start from the middle of the sink and work your way out. For the faucet, simply pour boiling water over the top of the faucet like this. If the faucet comes out, take the faucet, turn it over like that, and pour boiling water on the bottom. If it does not come out, you simply need to make sure the bottom is wiped clean. If you have a faucet that has a spout over here that removes, you should remove that spout, make sure it's cleaned well, and then you can use it without further kashering necessary. It may take a few pots of water to cover the entire sink, but you'll safely and effectively cover the entire surface of the sink. If your sink has a drain strainer or drain stopper, it should be replaced for Pesach. Almost all dishwashers contain plastic components, and therefore the dishwasher should not be used for Pesach. There are different opinions on whether a microwave can or cannot be kashered for Pesach, and therefore the simplest and recommended solution is that it should just be closed up and not used for Pesach. Cabinets and shelves just need to be wiped down and made sure they're completely clean. They do not necessarily need to be lined like this. Alternatively, if you would like to cover them, all you need to do is just line them with a simple piece of paper or contact paper like this. Refrigerators and freezers just need to be wiped down to be completely clean. No lining is necessary. Pay attention to the area in the gasket over here to make sure all crumbs are removed. We hope you found this video tutorial helpful. Feel free to contact the STAR-K office at any time at 410-484-4110 or info@stark.org with any questions about kashering or anything else related to Pesach or kashrus in general. We hope everybody has a safe and healthy Chag Kosher V'Sameach.